Have you ever heard of the so-called Lightworkers? It is a term widely used in modern spirituality and in the beliefs of the New Age movement. It refers to a category of human beings believed to be connected to a higher energy, entrusted with spiritual missions, foremost among them elevating human consciousness, spreading love, peace, and light throughout the world. Although most are unaware of this role, they eventually come to recognize their purpose in guiding others towards spiritual awakening and inner growth. Lightworkers are said to be divided into 12 distinct types, each with its own unique qualities. It is often suggested that one should examine these traits to see whether they might belong to such a group. What follows does not reflect our own convictions. It is presented merely for the sake of knowledge, and also as a prelude to what we intend to discuss further. First, the healers. They are marked by warm or radiant hands, gentle and compassionate eyes, and a soothing, calming presence. Second, the guides. They often possess a calm or deep voice, deliberate and balanced body language, and eyes that seem to touch the soul, instilling a sense of safety in others. Third, the spiritual mediums. Their gaze is often distant, as if communing with another realm or receiving messages from spiritual or angelic entities. Their voices are soft, as though speaking from afar. They frequently suffer from headaches or pressure in the third eye between the brows, and their bodies tend toward fragility. Fourth, the karmic restorers. They often feel a heaviness in the shoulders or chest, and their faces carry early lines of wisdom despite their youth. Life brings them difficult experiences from an early age, which deepen their inclination toward reflection and contemplation. Fifth, the earth guardians. They are frequently of darker or earth tone complexion, with large feet that symbolize groundedness. They often prefer to walk barefoot, feeling a deep connection with plants, animals, and nature. Sixth, the peace messengers. They wear serene expressions and constant smiles, breathe slowly and evenly, and maintain a naturally low heartbeat. Their body language is never aggressive, making them peacemakers who bring calm to conflicts and harmony to relationships. Seventh, the seers. With wide or almond-shaped eyes, they may suffer headaches or blurred vision and feel uneasy in noisy or negative environments. When they look at others, it often feels as though they are gazing through them, perceiving something unseen. They are believed to possess an inner vision, a third eye, granting them the ability to foresee events or read energies in people. Eighth, the illuminators. They often have striking or radiant features and a vibrant, captivating tone of voice. Drawn to bright colors, their gestures are full of energy and vitality. Their role is to expose hidden truths, dispel illusions, and raise awareness. Ninth, the grid workers. They experience sensations of heaviness or tingling in the soles of their feet or heads, preferring sacred or natural places like mountains and temples. They sometimes appear weary for no apparent reason and are said to work with Earth's energy grids or portals. 10th, the manifestors. They possess magnetic faces and radiant energy, speaking with great confidence and often gesturing expressively. They are believed to have the power to materialize intentions and bring desires into reality. 11th, the bearers of the divine code. They exhibit an uncommon, often unconventional beauty with harmonious and balanced physiques. Their words carry wisdom beyond their years, and they are said to hold within their souls the divine blueprint or archetype of humanity. 12th, the starseeds. They bear unusual or otherworldly features, large eyes, oval faces, pale skin, and often feel from childhood that they are outsiders, not belonging to this world. Highly sensitive to light, sound, and food, they are drawn to solitude and repelled by social noise. They are believed to be souls originating from higher realms, incarnated to aid humanity in its awakening. For the second time, let it be noted that this perspective derives from the doctrines of the New Age movement, teachings that cannot be wholly dismissed, as denying them outright would require us to deny the very existence of the unseen world. At the same time, they cannot be fully accepted, for they rest upon foundations designed to scatter the human mind and plunge it into confusion, so that one loses both self-awareness and the path to the true divine. The principal sources of these doctrines, as mentioned earlier, are the Eastern religions, chiefly Hinduism and Buddhism, which converge with the Abrahamic faiths in affirming that the soul does not perish and that earthly life is but a testing ground. Yet they diverge in asserting that, after the death of the body, the soul does not ascend to an eternal realm of either paradise or damnation according to one's deeds, but instead returns to life in a new form. This doctrine, known as reincarnation or samsara, stands as a central pillar of both Hindu and Buddhist belief. Hinduism, for instance, teaches that the soul Atman is eternal and does not die with the body, but is reborn in another form, whether human or animal, in accordance with the sum of one's deeds, known as karma. Karma is regarded as the prime mover of this cycle of rebirth. Every action, whether good or evil, is thought to be recorded and manifested in improved or diminished circumstances in the next life. Thus, the poor, the sick, and the disabled are viewed as suffering the consequences of past transgressions, while prosperity and health are interpreted as the fruits of virtuous deeds. This belief became the cornerstone of India's caste system, where one's birth into a particular class is seen as determined by karmic residue from previous lives. Reincarnation thus functions as a model of reward and punishment. Those with virtuous deeds return in the form of humans to enjoy a more privileged existence, while those laden with vice may be reborn as animals, lower beings, or even plants, depending on the weight of their karmic balance and the degree of spiritual refinement achieved in earlier lives. Thus, the soul is imagined to pass through endless cycles of birth, death, and rebirth, inhabiting diverse forms and circumstances in pursuit of spiritual evolution. Each return to life is believed to offer the chance to atone for past errors until one attains final liberation from the cycle. Moksha or nirvana, the ultimate union with a cosmic soul, Brahman, where individuality dissolves and personal existence ceases. The intellectual and religious roots of this doctrine are traced to the Upanishads, which explicitly explore the interrelation of soul, karma, and rebirth. The laws of Manu further elaborate on this concept, linking past actions to social and spiritual destinies, while the great Hindu scriptures expound it more deeply. The Bhagavad Gita, for example, places these words on the lips of Krishna. As a man discards worn-out garments and puts on new ones, so the soul casts off the body and enters into another. Reincarnation also forms the cornerstone of yogic and Vedantic philosophy, which sees the soul as eternal, temporarily clothed in a material body reflecting its level of consciousness, purity, or moral corruption achieved in prior experiences. Existence is thus perceived not as linear but cyclical, an unending passage of souls across bodies, governed by the spiritual law of cause and effect. Moreover, reincarnation is not conceived solely on the level of the soul, but also in terms of energy and the alignment of the chakras. It is believed that one who dies burdened with blockages or imbalances in their chakras will be reborn still suffering from them physically or psychologically, thus linking spiritual health and bodily vitality to the doctrine of rebirth. Buddhism, for its part, adopted the notion of reincarnation but without the concept of a fixed self. Here, the soul is not regarded as an immutable essence but as a stream of consciousness or energy flowing from one existence to another, devoid of any permanent identity. This nebulous conception only deepens the obscurity of the idea, turning it into a philosophical instrument for the dissolution of individual soulhood, suggesting that man possesses no true spiritual essence, but is rather a fleeting illusion of perception, vanishing as a wave fades back into the sea. In Western esoteric traditions such as Gnosticism and Theosophy, one finds implicit allusions to the soul's return in different bodies, purportedly to learn and to be freed from ignorance. This vision closely mirrors the Eastern notion of karma and later inspired movements that reintroduced reincarnation to the Western world under the guise of spiritual science. From there, the doctrine gained currency within the New Age movement and, over time, crept subtly into the Islamic world, concealed behind alternative designations. Yet despite the apparent allure of cosmic justice through reincarnation, as envisioned in Eastern religions and esoteric philosophies, the idea encounters grave philosophical difficulties, foremost among them the absence of memory. To place a soul within a system of reward and punishment without recollection of past deeds nullifies the very notion of justice, erasing the moral lesson intended. If the soul is indeed accountable for its actions, how could an individual be punished for deeds he does not remember? Even within Indian thought, reincarnation has not gone unchallenged. The ancient materialist Charvaka philosophers denied the existence of the soul altogether and rejected reincarnation as an unfounded hypothesis, dismissing it as a religious device to regulate human behavior through promises and threats. Moreover, reincarnation has often been wielded to justify social stratification and injustice, claiming that those born into lower castes or afflicted with suffering deserve such conditions as the outcome of prior karmic debts. This stands in stark opposition to the revealed religions, especially Islam, which proclaims the soul to be a divine breath, a sacred mystery from God, animating the physical body. Upon death, the soul does not return to earthly life but transitions to its higher realm. In Islam, the posthumous journey is clearly defined. The soul resides in al-Barzakh, the intermediate state, until the day of resurrection. Thus, Islam establishes with absolute clarity a worldview antithetical to reincarnation. Reward and punishment cannot exist without conscious memory, awareness, and accountability. To burden a soul with the consequences of forgotten lives is inherently unjust. Moreover, the belief in reincarnation undermines the doctrine of the hereafter, negates the day of judgment, and replaces the divine judge with a blind cosmic mechanism of karma, thereby eroding moral responsibility and leading toward esoteric atheism. The Quran explicitly refutes the idea of souls returning to earthly life after death. Until when death comes to one of them, he says, "My Lord, send me back that I might do righteousness in that which I left behind." No, it is but a word he speaks, and behind them is a barrier until the day they are resurrected. Hence, the claim of reincarnation is nothing more than a satanic deception aimed at demolishing the creed of monotheism. To embrace it is to deny resurrection, nullify divine justice, and reduce moral responsibility to a meaningless cycle in which the soul drifts endlessly through successive lives, while paradise, hell, and the final reckoning are all cast aside. Ibn Taymiyyah, in his work Al-Rad ala al-Manikiyan, made it clear that the doctrine of reincarnation is among the earliest forms of philosophical atheism, a deception that ensnared the minds of idolatrous nations. He further asserted that such illusions are cast into the hearts of men by devils who whisper to their allies. Some early scholars likewise reported that those who claim to witness incarnated souls are in truth deceived by the manifestations and impersonations of jinn. In essence, reincarnation, in its esoteric roots, transcends the superficial moral dimension and directly undermines the creed of resurrection and judgment. Beneath its mystical veneer, it seeks to establish the belief that man is a divine or semi-divine being, or self-evolving entity who needs no creator to fashion him or to hold him accountable, since he is allegedly governed by impersonal cosmic laws, driven by his energy, frequency, or intention. At its core, this doctrine amounts to a denial of the resurrection taught by revealed religions, recasting the soul within pantheistic or mystical unionist frameworks. It is, in truth, a disguised form of atheism clothed in spiritual garb, propagated today through yoga, self-development courses, and energy healing practices, heedless of its satanic origins. Nevertheless, the notion of reincarnation has found remarkable popularity in the modern West. The Canadian psychiatrist and researcher Ian Stevenson documented more than 2,000 cases of individuals claiming to recall previous lives. His works are still studied in certain Western universities under programs exploring consciousness beyond death. Among the most famous accounts is that of Shanti Devi, a girl born in Delhi in the year 1926. By the age of 4, she began insisting that she vividly remembered a former life as a woman named Lugdi, who lived in the city of Mathura in northern India with her husband Kedarnath, but who had died during childbirth. At first, her family dismissed the claims as childish fantasy. Yet she persisted, repeating the same details with unwavering consistency. When she reached the age of 9, one of her teachers sent a letter to the address she had provided as her former home. To the astonishment of all, a reply arrived from a real man named Kedarnath, confirming that his wife had indeed been called Lugdi and had died in childbirth 9 years earlier, precisely at the time Shanti Devi claimed to have died and been reborn. Her family then traveled with her to Mathura, where she recognized her former relatives, described minute details of her former home, and even identified her own bedroom. The case drew such attention that in 1935, Mahatma Gandhi appointed a commission of inquiry, which issued a report suggesting that the girl's testimony was beyond the fabrications of a child. Another widely cited case concerns a Druze child from the Golan Heights in Syria, whose name is often withheld due to the community's cultural and religious reservations about revealing personal details. At around the age of 3, the child began recounting memories of a former life, insisting that he had been a man from a neighboring village who had been murdered by an axe blow to the head. He not only named his alleged killer, but also led villagers to the site where he claimed his body had been buried. When the ground was excavated, a human skeleton was uncovered, bearing a skull injury consistent with the sharp-bladed wound described by the child. Investigations further reveal that the man named by the boy did indeed exist. Once apprehended, he confessed to a murder long hidden and known to none. A third renowned case is that of James Leininger, an American child born in 1998. By the age of 2, he exhibited unusual behavior for one so young, drawing detailed sketches of warplanes and waking in terror from recurrent nightmares in which he found himself trapped in a burning cockpit or plummeting from the skies. Later, he told his father that he had once been a fighter pilot named James Houston, who flew a Corsair aircraft from a carrier called Natoma Bay. Upon investigation, his father discovered that the USS Natoma Bay had indeed taken part in the Battle of Iwo Jima, and among its pilots had been a man named James Houston, whose plane had been shot down in combat against the Japanese in 1945. Unsurprisingly, the subtle machinery of cultural indoctrination has not neglected to reinforce the idea of reincarnation and Eastern mysticism more broadly, the very foundation of the New Age movement, through a wide range of cinematic and dramatic works. Among them, A Cloud Atlas, a sweeping philosophical epic interweaving 6 stories spanning from the 19th century to a distant post-apocalyptic future. Each tale features recurring characters reborn across ages, exploring themes of karma, reincarnation, freedom, responsibility, and identity. The film conveys the existential notion that a single soul may be reborn into multiple forms, carrying echoes of its past lives to affirm that all existence is interconnected. The Fountain, which unfolds through 3 intertwined timelines. In the past, a monk in search of the Tree of Life. In the present, a physician striving to cure his wife's cancer. And in the future, a disembodied soul drifting through the cosmos. The narrative meditates upon reincarnation, eternal love, and the quest for both spiritual and physical immortality. A Birth, a psychological drama centered on a grieving widow who, 10 years after her husband's death, encounters a 10-year-old boy claiming to be her deceased spouse Reborn. Their unsettling relationship probes the boundaries of memory, rationality, and the mystery of reincarnation. Origins, a science fiction drama about an ophthalmologist who discovers a recurring pattern in iris structures, which may suggest the existence of the soul and its transmigration. After the death of his beloved, his research leads him to a young girl in India with identical eyes and gestures, convincing him she is the very same soul returned. A Sense8, a series portraying 8 individuals from different parts of the globe who become suddenly linked through shared consciousness, seeing, hearing, and even inhabiting one another's bodies. Though not explicitly presenting reincarnation, it explores the themes of collective awareness, spiritual interconnectedness, and a vision akin to a form of collective, interwoven rebirth. The series The OA also addressed these themes, telling the story of a blind girl who was kidnapped, only to return 7 years later with her sight restored. She claimed to have undergone experiences proving that death is nothing more than the transition of consciousness, or the soul, across parallel universes. It is presented as a veiled suggestion of reincarnation, blending ritualistic, quasi-spiritual movements with elements of experimental science. Yet, speaking of science, despite the fascination of such tales, stories of reincarnation fail to rise to the level of definitive scientific evidence. Most accounts rely heavily on personal testimonies, which may be shaped by complex psychological processes such as unconscious parental suggestion, vivid imagination in children, or what is known as false memory syndrome. For this reason, Ian Stevenson's lifelong research on children who claim to remember past lives has faced heavy criticism. Scholars highlighted the lack of strict scientific controls, repeated instances of bias and selective interpretation, and insufficient documentation to rule out the possibility that children have been exposed to such information by ordinary means. In the case of Shanti Devi, skeptics pointed out that India provides fertile cultural ground for beliefs in reincarnation, making it far more likely that children might imagine, imitate, or unconsciously absorb these ideas from their environment and relatives. Regarding James Leininger, although his case appears striking, critics argue that he may have picked up the information from his surroundings or through media exposure, especially given his parents' strong interest in World War II history. As for the Syrian child's story, its credibility collapses under scrutiny. For even the most basic piece of information, the identity of the child himself remains unverified. The same holds true for dozens, if not hundreds, of similar anecdotes. And nevertheless, if approached with neutrality, one might argue that outright dismissal of these accounts is itself somewhat illogical. The sheer amount of detail, coherence, and specificity recounted by very young children seems difficult to attribute entirely to parental influence or environmental exposure. Where, then, do such elaborate memories come from, if not, at least in rare instances, from souls reborn, carrying fragments of their former lives into the present? Well, if the scientific perspective cannot offer a convincing refutation, since the scientific method rejects the unseen realm as it lies beyond the principle of testability and verification, then the religious perspective can indeed provide such a rebuttal. We shall see how reincarnation, energy healing, and nearly all the concepts of the New Age movement are nothing more than diabolical manipulations of the human mind.